And welcome back to Game on Vegas. Now, tomorrow morning is the topping off ceremony at the stadium site as work continues to chug along toward that July 2020 opening. Joining us now to talk about everything to do with the stadium and really sports in Las Vegas is Jeremy Aguero with Applied Analysis Principal there. And I didn't realize, Jeremy, that your family is a fourth-generation Las Vegan.
Yeah, no doubt. Moved here in 1905. Actually bought land in the land auction that created Las Vegas.
God, that is crazy. And now you have your own company, Applied Analysis, which, and I'm always fascinated with analytics. I think that is so cool, and that's what your company is all about.
Yeah, no doubt. We try to track every bit of information we can and help our clients utilize that information to make some better decisions.
And it's not just sports. Obviously we know you're from sports with how sports is moving and the stadium, but you do a lot of stuff in this community. You look at personal growth income, and I guess it can all tie together though, can't it? I mean, if personal growth income is good, then I think the sports is going to be good. I mean, does it all kind of tie together in a sense?
I think so, a little bit. I mean, let's just think about where we are today, right? We're at or near the nation's highest in population growth, employment growth, income growth, all of those type of things. That's the reason why so many people are moving here, to say nothing of the fact we also have 42 million visitors that decide to get on a plane or get in a car and come to Vegas. That means that about 16 to 70% of the people that put a head in a bed on any given night don't actually live here full time. If that doesn't motivate you to have economic activity, including sports, I don't think you're looking very closely.
And that's probably why, if I said to you, Jeremy, why will the Raiders work in Vegas? When you look at the analytics and the numbers and all that, why will it work?
Well, look, I think it's going to work for a number of reasons. I mean, I think number one, our community is growing and is ready for something along those lines. I don't think there's any doubt about that. We've seen that in terms of the momentum that the Raiders have had, the excitement that the community has seen. I mean, they've fit in very well. But if we think about it even beyond that, a stadium that has the ability to leverage 150,000 hotel rooms, the second busiest origination and destination airport in the United States, and 300,000 leisure and hospitality workers sort of are dedicated to the proposition that the party's not over till the last person goes home. We know how to put events on, including without limitation, football, NFL football. And so we're looking really forward to that opportunity to leverage those assets that we have in our community today.
Well, when you think of, the Raiders, you got the stadium, then you got this new Las Vegas ballpark, you got T-Mobile Arena, that Sphere is going to be built, I guess. I don't know what Jackie Robinson's project is going to do, but when you put all this together, you got to say, man, what is next? What possibly could happen here next in the next 30 years?
Yeah, but I think that's what people were saying 5 years ago. What's going to happen next? I mean, they've been saying that about Las Vegas for the last 40 years. Oh, it's never going to work in Las Vegas. The MGM was too big, the Bellagio too expensive, right? No one was going to come here for luxury. And we've proven them wrong over and over and over again. Yeah, there's going to be cynics that are going to say, oh, the stadium will never work, or it's not a good deal for Las Vegas. I think it's quite the opposite. I think everything that the Raiders have committed to do, they're doing. The bringing on AEG has been terrific in terms of the ability to have more events and more activity in that property. And I think we all should be looking forward to the opening of that, not only because of NFL football, but certainly because of NFL football.
It was at the last stadium meeting, Jeremy, where you kind of lay out what's going on and what's happening and so forth with the stadium update. And someone asked a question like, because the Raiders spent $40 million more to put in some suites and seats and whatever. And I can't remember who asked the question, but will you be able to fill those seats? And immediately the answer was yes. I mean, there wasn't even hesitation. That's kind of the excitement that's behind that stadium, isn't it? I mean, the economic benefits of that thing.
Yeah, and let's be clear about it. They put $40 million more to enhance the stadium. That is to add suites and to add additional amenities that are there, right? And how do they have the capacity to do that? Number one, it's because of demand. The demand is already there. They're beating expectations in terms of seat sales. They're beating expectations in terms of suite sales. They're doing everything that we had hoped they would do and doing even more in terms of that stadium being able to be as productive as we'd expect it to be. So, look, I think those are all great signs for what we have coming into our community.
You mentioned AEG, and they're going to be responsible for bringing events. I think it was 46 over the course of the year that they're kind of required or wanting to bring in. I think they could get more, can't they?
Well, look, I don't want to handicap what they can do or what they can't do, but I know that the question was asked of them in that last Stadium Authority Board meeting that you were asking, and they said, yeah, we're going to be able to do that. We're going to beat those numbers, as a matter of fact. Look, I had the opportunity to sit down and talk to those folks a little bit. They're excited about being here. Not only are they the best in the business, but they're excited about having this asset in this market. And I think that is fantastic for this project and for this community.
You know, when you looked at that project from the very beginning, in fact, we talked about it, we go back to Senate Bill 1, which is amazing because, Jeremy, you know that thing, it's about, probably that thick, but you know it inside and out. What impressed you about it? And there were, like you mentioned, there were some people that maybe kind of questioned that, but what impressed you about that Senate Bill 1 and just how it was able to move through and get this thing going from the very start?
Yeah, look, I think it's what makes this community and, frankly, this state so remarkable. And that is that we start from a position of trying to figure out how we can get things done, not how we can not get things done. What Senate Bill 1 reflects is a commitment of the community, a commitment of the state, but also a commitment of the Raiders to be able to hire locally, to have small businesses, to have minorities working on that thing. That was a compromise and a consensus among legislators that believed that we could do something great for our economy, and an entity in the Raiders that believed that they could also fulfill that obligation. What Senate Bill 1 represents is essentially the coming together of the public sector and the private sector to do something great for this state and this community.
What's kind of we mentioned the topping off ceremony is going to be tomorrow morning. That thing's it's on schedule, on budget, and I think you were mentioning to me on the phone the other day that over 2 million man hours have been put into that.
That's right.
A lot of local jobs. I mean, this thing has created jobs for the local economy.
Yeah, I think sometimes we forget how bad it was a few years back, right? This community lost 1 out of every 7 private sector employees. It lost 2 out of every 3 construction employees, right? That's 66% of people that worked in construction lost their jobs during the Great Recession, right? What we've seen now is a resurgence in our economy, and I think the stadium has a fair amount to do with that. As you mentioned, 2 million construction work hours on this site, and I hope in that celebration tomorrow that is truly recognized. The amount of effort, the amount of time, and the amount of diligence and dedication, quality work that those folks have put in. A very difficult time. As you and I both know, it's 110 degrees out. Those guys are working double shifts. Well, they have 2 shifts, and they're working 6 days a week, and they have been for some time to do exactly what you said, keep it on budget and keep it on time. And so I think the community owes those folks a bit of a debt of gratitude.
You know, the project fell behind, I believe it was 52 days or whatever the steel deal, but they're doing things out of order to keep that stadium project on schedule, aren't they?
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, look, I don't think you're going to have a $1.8 billion project that isn't going to have some scheduling issues. There were some issues relative to the steel, and again, credit to Mortensen and McCarthy as well as the Raiders and their whole development team in sort of finding a way to look at the schedule, be creative about it, and find ways to get time back. And that's exactly what they've done. As you said, they've reshuffled some of the ordering of things, and there's actually things that they're ahead on. They're ahead in terms of bringing full-time power to the stadium. They're ahead in terms of some of the public spaces that are out there. And they've done that because they're bringing some things forward because they know they're going to have to push a few things back. Obviously, getting that roof structure all constructed is a critical path item. And the topping off ceremony, as you mentioned, coming up tomorrow is a big step in getting that done.
You know, it's amazing. This last week we talked about it. It's been 365 days now. A few days ago was the 1-year mark before the completion. I'm also impressed, Jeremy, with what the Raiders went out and did with the hiring of local talent, diverse talent, getting males, females, veterans involved in the construction of this project.
Yeah, you know what? When this project is completed, I'm willing to bet you here now that it becomes the most significant project of this size in terms of diversity for a stadium anywhere in the United States by the time that it's done, right? They had an expectation they'd have about 35% minorities. They've blown that out of the water. They had a requirement in Senate Bill 1 that they would hire 15% small business enterprise. Those are small businesses that may not have an opportunity to work on a project big as this. They're already at 20% relative to that. Again, all the promises that they made, they have kept, if not exceeded thus far, and I have no expectation that they won't continue to do that, both in the completion of the construction, but also the operation of the stadium, which obviously is the long-term thing that we're concerned about.
So I want to ask you, before we let you go, Jeremy, what's the economic outlook now for, say, 2024, 25, 26, as you kind of see it, when you put all the analytics together, what does it tell you?
Well, look, I mean, all the analytics, in terms of population growth and employment growth, we continue to be going strong. But I think we have to look hard at a national economy that's showing some signs of slowing. Of course, Federal Reserve took some moves this year. From a Southern Nevada standpoint, we're outpacing the United States by a long shot, but we are not immune from an economic downturn. I think this is the time to have at least some caution relative to that outlook. Right now, we've got $24 billion worth of projects that are planned, proposed, or under construction in our community. That bodes well for continued expansion. But there will be a slowdown. Exactly when it happens, I don't know that I can tell you, but we need to be prepared for it when it does.
All right, there he is. Jeremy, we appreciate you coming by. Thank you very much.
Thank you for all you've done.
Interesting stuff. Thank you very much. So don't forget the topping off ceremony tomorrow morning. We'll be out there. Join us for the complete coverage there. Hey, still ahead.